This isn't the first time that I've had issues with my LX85 mount. A few years back I bought my first one and it always ran rough, and that one broke and had to be sent in for warranty repair. It didn't even get repaired. They sent me a brand new one that had its own problems, and when that one initially broke, I decided to take matters into my own hands and upgrade everything myself. Thankfully, there is a plethora of information on the internet, and the astronomy community is happy to help with any sort of upgrade project that you have. So with that, I was able to successfully implement OnstepX into my new telescope build, and it's been running better than it ever has before. So I thought I'd like to take you on a quick tour around the upgrades that I've made to the telescope and let you know my experiences with it. So, welcome to the garage, and this is FX4 Astro. Well, here's the completed build with the transition to OnstepX being fully implemented. In order to do that, I pretty much had to gut all the OEM components out of the system. So, for example, the old DC motor had to be removed, the old planetary gearbox, encoder gone, useless. The old control board, which broke in the first place, useless. All the gears, everything else, useless. Fun thing about this mount also, I figured out that it has a periodic error correction optical sensor on the right ascension axis that doesn't get used. So that got removed, and maybe I'll use that for a later build. However, pretty much the only thing that stayed was the original worm gear that drives the axles for each axes. And I really wasn't too impressed with the components I pulled out of here. Again, I mean, look at the old motor that used to drive this thing. It's pretty pitiful. And just use this encoder to translate its position to an electrical signal. So the upgrade to these stepper motors was much appreciated. Now, going over these modifications, starting with the control board. This is the FYSETIC E4. I hope I said that right. Now, this was chosen for a variety of reasons that had to do with basically simplicity and ease of use. This control board has an onboard Wi-Fi module. I opted to get the external antenna attachment just to be sure I had a nice signal with it. And it also has built-in stepper drivers, so you don't need to buy and adjust stepper drivers separately. So that's all really nice for that. This board drives two NEMA 17 stepper motors, one for the right ascension axis and one for the declination axis. These motors have a 0.9 degree step angle, which translates to 400 steps per revolution, which is nice because having the higher step per revolution ratio will help me give better tracking resolution at the long run. And each motor has a 15-tooth pulley directly coupled to the shaft, and that is coupled with the worm drive gear via a pulley belt. And the worm drive gear is 62, so that gives me a first stage reduction of 4 to 1. Then the worm gear to the axle is basically, it's just 144 to 1, that's just the OEM specification. So with those calculations combined, I have a total of 51,200 steps per revolution, which is pretty nice. I used the Onstep calculator here on the wiki, and as you can also see, it gives you the measurements for both your ideal and realistic tracking resolution, which is nice and super helpful when trying to determine a direct chain design. So these housings I drew up on Onshape, which is a free CAD software online that you can use. I basically drew and designed a new housing for both the declination motor and the right ascension motor, and since the new control board is so big, it needed its own housing that I printed and slapped on there. took a few iterations to get those right. Essentially just figuring out how you wanted to get the motor mount and where your holes wanted to be. And you use basically just Velcro to mount the control board on the side. But now it turns out alright. I was able to reuse the OEM hardware and mounting holes for these new brackets. So everything works pretty good. So for the firmware and software side of the house, Onstep uses the Arduino IDE and a handful of libraries to flash OnstepX to your new controller. A general working knowledge of IDEs and coding libraries is helpful here. It can be a little bit confusing when making sure you have all of your settings and libraries in order when you flash it to this. So having a prior knowledge of that helps. But because of that, there's another reason why I chose this specific control board, is that it has the ability to be configured, do runtime configuration. Normally, with other boards or other options, you need to manually edit the header files with the correct settings for your stepper motors and revolutions and all that we calculated earlier. However, with the FYSETIC E4 board, you can just do a runtime configuration and be done with it. So again, easy use, super nice, and super straightforward, and that's why I liked it. So OnstepX works seamlessly with PHD2 and Nina. Just make sure you have the proper ASCOM drivers installed. Using the ASCOM controller, you'll need to set up your mount-specific settings for things like time, GPS coordinates, time zone, things like that. And then that information will be imported from your mount to Nina. And then everything will be able to track, it'll know where it's at, and it'll all work good. So let's go ahead really quickly and see this thing work in action. So here I am in Onstep. I have the Onstep profile selected for telescope with Nina. Go ahead and just hit connect, and everything connects as expected. Nina confirms the connection. And let's go ahead and pick a target as if we were going to be out telescoping. I don't have anything else connected. Normally I have the cameras connected, the imaging, the tracking camera, all that. However, since we're just demonstrating the mount functionality, I'm not connected to it right now. Lately I've been imaging the Flying Bat Nebula, so let's just import those coordinates from Stellarium. And let's go ahead and hit Selene Center. Now, obviously, the place solving is not going to work because the camera is not hooked up. However, as you can see, the mount's performing as expected. So let's just go ahead and stop that now, because it's not going to find it. And let's just return the mount to home. There we go, back at home.